Hi, this is a very tired Roger. Welcome to my Sunday chat on a Monday. There's not much going right at the moment, is there? Very busy weekend, long weekend, lots of driving, lots of standing on my feet, as opposed to sitting down a lot of the time, which I do at home. Consequently today, relatively tired, but okay, if you see what I mean. Right, the show on Saturday. Poorly attended, and I'm sure we will have a drains up at the next committee meeting to try and work out why, but nobody had an explanation. It wasn't raining, it wasn't snowing, it was on a Saturday, you know, it was in the place we've had it the last couple of times, but the footfall was low. At one point, near lunchtime, I'd been on the door most of the morning, so I appreciated there wasn't a good stream of people. And some of the people that had come in had already left. So I sort of got up to go in and chat to somebody about something or other, and I walked in the door and I thought, somebody shouted fire and I missed it. Because you've got the people who came to help set up, and there were like just a couple of others, and that's all that was there. I thought, what's going on? Anyway, we had a bit of a surge in the afternoon, so we did make some money, but nowhere near what I would have hoped for at a show. But then I was at the Bournemouth Orchid Society show a few weeks ago. They had a very low turnout as well. So I don't know whether this cost of living thing is just starting to bite in more seriously. As the weather's threatening to be colder, it would naturally be so. It's autumn, we're heading towards winter, and people are starting to think, yeah, we're going to have to start putting the heating on soon. You know, and suddenly there's a big expense coming up. So perhaps people are just, you know, it's all very well like a person interested in orchids can go to a show and not spend any money. But most people go to a show, they expect to buy something. So you've got, you know, the entrance fee, transport, whatever, petrol, fuel, you're probably going to get some lunch while you're out, plus you might want to buy a few orchids. Suddenly it becomes an expense that you have to stop and think about. So maybe that is the simple reason. People are just starting to, you know, tighten their belts, as the expression goes. Anyway, so the show was okay. We had a good number of plants. I'll apologise for the lack of more detailed filming that I would normally do at a show. You know, I normally go along quite slowly, you know, getting in quite close to some of the blooms and things like that. And literally all I did was go along Lawrence's display, I went along Arthur's display, and then I went along our display. And I had to do that in two halves because they were still faffing around trying to sort out the last bit of judging. And I wanted to get my filming done before the public came in, expecting a big crowd. Well, we didn't get it. I could have filmed any time of day. Anyway, so Saturday went off okay. Given that it was very cold, when I left home Saturday morning, the thermostat on the car, thermometer on the car, which is supposed to give you the outside temperature, said 1 degree, so not far off freezing. And at that temperature, with the sun and the amount of rain we had earlier in the week, I was expecting mist and fog, and there wasn't anything. I had a lovely clear run through to the show. So arrived a bit earlier than I'd originally planned. Well, that's okay, then you haven't got a rush, you know. You've got a bit of extra time, haven't you? Extra bacon roll, yay! Anyway, so the show went okay. People did what they were supposed to do. There were no hiccups, you know, nothing like that. Lynn was there on and off during the day. She's got dog trouble again. Her dog's got problems with discs and vertebrae and things like that, and he's had some sort of reoccurrence of the problem and has had to have serious surgery and everything. So she wasn't in the best of moods, because even though she came over to the show and she's talking to people, her mind is back at home, you know. And consequently she didn't come on Sunday. She said I really want to get away from everything, quite honestly. I would love a day out, but if I go, I will be worried all day that everything's okay at home. Because on top of the dog has to be carried everywhere. Her husband put his back out carrying the dog. So she said, I've got 2 invalids at home now. I bet I know which one gets all the attention. Anyway, so come Sunday, trip to Burnham's. Again, freezing cold first thing in the morning, and that road, there are parts of that road that it's even got a sign on the road, this area is liable to fog. It even tells you, not a light. Absolutely beautiful run to Burnham's. 15-20 minutes faster than I've ever done it before. It was as though I had the roads to myself, you know, literally. You know, a lot of our little A roads, a lot of them are limited to 60 miles an hour. Well, basically I did 60 most of the time, including some bits that I shouldn't have been doing it, but at that time of day, there's no one about, who cares? I don't. Yeah, so smashing run to Burnham's. That place was quite busy, but it's a little bit, you get a false impression, because there were effectively 3 orchid societies put displays on, that's 3 lots of people setting up. That's quite a few people that were there anyway, if you know what I mean, rather than visitors, if you see what I mean. Had a chat with Sean, he's a regular viewer, he's had some of my plants in the past, and I've got one of his somewhere here. It's the one that we thought was Shelob Tolkien, and it turned out to be Shelob Marie. That one, that came from Sean. Yes, so a busy weekend, a lot of driving, but enjoyable. Especially all the time I'm thinking, and this is it now. This is the end until February next year, when Bournemouth Orchid Society put on their spring show. That's the first one of the year that I'll be going to. So that's the end of the orchid stuff for this year and on into next year. There'll be our Orchid Society meetings, so there's a November meeting. There isn't a meeting in December, that's our Christmas lunch. And then there's a January meeting, and we'll have a February meeting before that. So the meetings often bring some nice plants in, so there might still be something to film that's not my orchids, if you see what I mean. So that's the problem, no shows or anything like that. You're stuck with what I've got. Oh dear, how sad. But yeah, that's how it is, you know, if I'm not visiting anywhere else to see other people's orchids, then all we've got is what I've got. And talking about what I've got, you're all hovering there thinking, what's he got, what's he got, what'd he get, what'd he buy? Well, first of all, backtrack. Thanks for the person who gave me some money into my PayPal account. I still haven't quite worked that out, but I'm not particularly worried about it. And that was classed as, it was written as a note, incentive to go to Burnham's. Well, I went, so that was good. So that went towards what I bought while I was there, which was more than I planned, but it always happens like that, doesn't it? And then several other people used the Buy Me a Coffee to put some money in the pot, to sort of so that I can come home with a few bits and pieces, which I did. So we'll do that. Shall I? Yeah, I'll swing the camera around and we'll do the unbagging. Yeah, but before we do the unbagging, there's one that's not in a bag and something else I wanted to show you. Then I'll break off and we'll get the stuff out the bag and unwrap it. Arthur went to a lot of trouble wrapping it up, so we ought to unwrap it. It's not all from Burnham's. There is one plant in there from the private sales table. Right, a couple of things to show you first. Oh, and well done those who spotted my orchids in what was a very flash pass of the camera across that display. bearing in mind it wasn't even all orchids, there were other stuff in there. But at the show on Saturday, several people said they spotted my orchids in amongst all the others. That was good. Right, so first thing to show you is my blackjack came home with a passenger. It got one of them. And there were several people that came up to me and said, quite rightly so. So that was nice. It was, you know, nice token gesture. Sort of makes you feel a bit better about all the, you know, cleaning the leaves off, getting it ready, packing everything up so that it doesn't fall over in the car and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and they didn't notice the aphid on the corner there. Mind you, that might have got on there today. Oh, there's a thing. Those of you who follow Rachel as well, that's Gardening at Douentza, quite a sad video. She's lost a lot of her orchid collection and for a period of time lost total interest in her orchids. I thought the videos were getting a bit thin on the ground and we hadn't seen a proper orchid video for some time. But yeah, a video explaining why, and very good reason as well. I could have done exactly the same video a while back for exactly the same reasons, except for I persevered. Anyway, it's worth a look. It's nice when people are honest and own up to problems, especially when they're serious enough like that. I mean, think how many orchids I lost in the move and not getting my head around this new environment. You know, I was up over 180. Well, I'm around 140 now, but there's a fair few of those are new this year, aren't they? So that's bringing it back up to that number. Anyway, that was that. And then the other one that's not wrapped and not in a bag, and I'll explain why. But this one I bought at our show on Saturday. Yes, we've got another one. I like them and they seem to be growing okay. And this one caught my eye because of the plant, as is often the case with me, because there are quite a lot of Paphiopedilums that if you start, let's say, with the plant first blooms, it'll have one mature fan, possibly an old one that might be smaller, like a seedling fan or something anyway. So we start from that point. And then when that flower goes, the next fan will grow. You'll get a new growth. And often the older fan will die off during the growth of that new one. So you never seem to get any more than two fans. You know, one older one that's already bloomed and one that will bloom soon or is in bloom. Yeah? And that looked like what this was. But then I noticed on this one that the other fan's actually got a bud. Then I noticed we've also got our new growth already. Yeah? So that one seemed like a good deal. It was quite expensive, although I didn't pay what it says on the tag because I always do deals with Lawrence, but this came off of Lawrence's stand. And this is, let's get my finger over the price, I didn't pay that anyway, frighten the life out of you. That's what it is. Yeah, so a variety of a species. Never heard of either of them, but I like the bloom. It's a good size, it's nice shades and colours, and yeah. But it looks like it's a single bloom per spike. So that's what came home from our show. And it didn't get wrapped, I'll tell you why. I bought it before we were open to the public. That's it. The people who help set up and do all that, they get first look at the traders before anybody else does. So if there's anything exceptional there, it's gone before the public get in the door. Perhaps I shouldn't tell you that. Anyway, so I got this off of Lawrence's stand before it was open to the public. I basically picked it up and sort of, Lawrence was talking, I went like that and pointed, pay you later, like that. I turned round and the lady who did our display took it straight off of me. She said, I'm having that for the display, you can have it back at the end. So there it was gone. So it went in the display. It's in front of Blackjack. It's just there somewhere. But at the time you viewed that video, you wouldn't have known that because obviously you didn't know I got that plant. But I have. So we have yet another Paphiopedilum. Getting quite a few now, but then they seem to be growing well. And I don't think they're difficult to keep. You don't need to water them that often, not really, especially like with these lower temperatures and the shorter days, because they're not going to go under the lights. They'll just put up with whatever they get. But they are near a bright window. You certainly wouldn't do that in the brightest light of the summer. That would be too bright for them. But this time of year with this sort of light, you can give them bright light. Right, I will shut off, rearrange the camera, and we'll start unbagging to see what else I came home with. Did we come home with any more paths? No. Don't think so anyway. No. Right, I'll be back. Okay. Open the box. No, take the money. Open the box, take the money. I'll show your age if you know what that is. Right, we'll get rid of one, so we've got some room to move. And we will start. Now this one, there's one plant in here that was a real last minute decision. No blooms. In fact, there's no blooms on any of these. These are all non-bloomers. So we'll get the bag out of the way and then we can unwrap. Do you know, at this point with the sort of tiredness, I can't remember what the hell I got yesterday. I really can't. We'll have a look. It'll all come flooding back to me, I'm sure. Oh, right. This was the one I picked up at the last minute with no blooms on. But first of all, I had to find somebody, because I couldn't do it on my phone, I didn't have a strong enough signal. I wanted somebody who had a decent internet connection to look up the blooms for me, which was done, and they're nice. But they're not here yet. Now this is, when I put this video together, I will get a picture off the internet for this because it's worth seeing what it's like. It's called Oncidium barocco, yeah, and it's not your dancing lady shape Oncidium, it's more the star shape. Sort of heading towards the odont shape but not quite getting there, smaller. Okay, what caught my eye on this then? Well, if we come down this latest growth here, 1, 2, 3 spikes, and then if we look at the growth behind, we've got 1, 2, 3 spikes. That's got 6 spikes on it to develop. We like 6 spikes on one plant, even if it doesn't have lots of blooms on each one. But anyway, it's in a stage of development. It has actively growing roots. I will get it out of the pot. In fact, I'll try and do it now. The idea with checking a root system on a new plant is to try and put your hand over as much of the media as possible, make sure it's loose, and turn the whole thing upside down carefully, hoping not too much falls out, and lift gently. And with any luck, the pot will come off like that. That looks like it was possibly potted at Burnham's, but it has roots and it has plenty of room to grow in that media, and the media is not old, so it can stay in there until after it's bloomed. Yeah, and how much media did we lose? That. So you could have got away with doing that in front of the trader. They really don't like it. They don't like it at all, because of the possibility of all the media falling off. But I'm going to retract the fact that this possibly hasn't long been repotted, because if this was newly repotted, it probably wouldn't have moss on the top, because that moss has grown on the media, yeah? Which implies you know, it's been in the pot a while. Nonetheless, I don't see that as an urgent repot. So Oncidium type, heading towards odont. Might even have some odontoglossum in it. There is another type of cool grower, cool to cold grower. What are they called? Cochleoda. And they're often in a mix, yeah? And they are nearly all bright red. So that might have that in it. Possible. Right, that's one. What's next then? Oh, that coffee's stone cold. I need another one. Right, so what have we got here then? I think this is the one that came off the sales table. So this looks awful, but it isn't. Well, it is, but it isn't. I'll explain. Yeah, I think this is the one that came off the sales table. Yes. Right, now this is a Coelogeny, and it is... I wish people would write clearly. I will have to look this up again. I'll do a pop-up, because several people looked at that tag and worked it out, and I can't remember what they said. But it's a cross, and the second type starts with the word salmon. But, you know, you only write the tag once, don't you? If that's your bestest joined up handwriting, and that's the best you can do, you should have been a doctor, not an orchid grower. Because they seem to deliberately write so that you can't read it. Right, so this is basically a relatively recent division of a Coelogeny that we looked up, saw the blooms, and I thought, yeah, we'll have some of that. It's not a giant, but it will grow quite big. The new growth has rooted, so this is to grow on. I doubt if it will grow on the next growth, but possibly the one after. So this is probably a 2-year project to physically see these blooms on the plant. So that was that one, but that cost next to nothing. That was on, as I said, that was on the private sales table. So that was one of the Orchid Society. Well, it would have been one of the Devon Orchid Society's members' plants. So nothing to do with Burnham's or Lawrence. These are the two traders that were on the go there. I'm surprised Trey wasn't there actually. He often goes to Burnham because he's based in Bristol. So he's only got a pop down the M5 and he can get there quite quick. Although he clocks up some miles, it's all 3-lane motorway all the way there sort of thing. So, right, let's get these two out then. Oh, well done, Arthur. He picked up a bag with a hole in it. So instead of picking up another bag, he sellotaped the hole. And of course he stuck the bottom of the pot to the bag as well. Right, there's one. So there's 4 here. And the one I came back with from our show, so 5 new plants we have. Come on, let go. Stuck to the bag. Literally. Right, you're going to come out now, yes. Jolly good. Right, let's see if... I can't remember what these are. I can't remember for the life of me. I know one of them has got buds, and when it blooms it's going to be quite spectacular. The blooms are stunning. And again, looks like a good plant, so... Right, what we've got here was a sort of spur of the moment for 2 reasons. I recognised the cross, no, not the cross, I recognised the components of the cross, one of which I've already got, as in part of a cross that I've already got, so one element of a cross I've got, yeah, and one that I had years and years ago and lost. That is going to be quite something when that blooms. Yeah, you've got Encyclia green hornet. That's an octopus, you know, lip at the top, dangly sort of things like that, and it is a good green. I had that one once before, and then it's actually crossed with Epidendrum, and that's Miva Etoile. I think that's pronounced French, and that is almost black. I think the combination of those two is going to produce something pretty wonderful, and this was the only one. So it was either the last one or the only one, but either way, it's here now. Again, well rooted into the pot. Yeah. So we've even got, this is the latest growth, there's even a sheath down in there. So we might even get this growth here to bloom. I don't know whether you can actually see that, but there is a sheath down in there. So there we go, that's that one. Pretty good stuff, that. As I said, I just spotted that on its own, mainly, you know, from the side. All I saw was these nice fresh leaves on a fresh new growth with some roots coming out the bottom, which warranted closer inspection to see what it was. And then as soon as I saw the label, whenever I see a plant now, I pick it up. I don't care if I have to walk around with it for an hour before I can put it down again. I've had ones taken where I've seen something and think, I'll come back for that in a minute, that looks pretty good. When you come back, there's a hole where it was because somebody else has taken it. So as soon as I see something I fancy now, I pick it up. You try and take it off me if you like, but I pick it up. It's now mine. And then this is the one with the bud. I hope this bud hasn't been damaged or is going to blast. I really do. Right, so what we've got here is a Coelogeny. It has a bud, which is borderline opening almost immediately. It's also sequential. It has a second bud on that spike, and it also has another spike on the other new growth. Yeah, so we got two growths in spike, and this is one I'd never heard of. But the blooms are stunning, and again I will try and get a picture, but this is a Burnham special, so at some point some seedlings were produced obviously, and they picked out like the best of the best that was unusually large or had much brighter colours or something like that, and put it in and actually got it named, so it's actually got Burnham on the end of it. But basically that is Coelogeny speciosa, and the blooms are a peachy colour with some dark brown. It's a gorgeous bloom. So, and that's as big as it grows. As a Coelogeny with really large flowers, that's as big as it grows. It will get wide, but it won't get much taller than that, if any. And that's an absolute bonus with Coelogenies, because some of them are absolute monsters. Some of them would compete with the big Cymbidiums for space, you know. So that's what we got. And as I said, because I won't be going anywhere else, it's highly unlikely there won't be any new orchids now till next year. It's not the sort of time of year Postman Pat should be getting involved. Now it's Monday today. I'm supposed to be sending some kikis to Carol. I will say now that we'd be pushing our luck with these temperatures, quite honestly, even though it's a dendrobium and it will probably be okay. It's not worth pushing it, if you see what I mean. It is very cold at the moment. It will be again tomorrow. Later in the week it's going to go back to a bit warmer and wet. But then you have to sort of decide, can I risk the 24-hour postage later in the week without it getting delayed and held up all weekend, you know, in a depot somewhere? So you then sort of think, well, actually, it might have to wait till the week after now. Yeah, But you know, when you've got overnight temperatures down near freezing, we don't really want to be posting orchids. It's just, the risk is just too silly really, especially as these two kikis are the only two. So if I post those and they don't make it, it's not like I can send a replacement. Those are it, you know. So anyway, that's what I got. I'm quite looking forward to this one opening, which should be very soon. And this one has had, either it's how it is or it's had a bit of hydration issues, because it's got these, the new growths have got these crinkly leaves that look a bit bubbly. And that's a sure sign of uneven watering. Yeah, it's a sure sign that it hasn't been kept enough hydration while in full flood. In other words, while that growth was developing. But this is a very ribbed leaf. Yeah, that is its natural look, and they are very ribbed. So this may not be too far off normal if you think about that. So there we go. So I've got some stuff to add to my notes. We've got 5 plants to add into my notes, and in some cases we might be doing some new labels, I don't know. Got to the point now where the label maker, it came with some colour cartridges, you know, the actual tape, coloured tape. I think there were 5 colours and a white one, and the white one's paper, not plastic, so obviously that's no good. It was good for having a practice to find out what doesn't work very well. I'd love my labels to be proper, with italics in appropriate places. But that label maker, if you switch to italics, it isn't italics, it's like a stepladder. It's like little blocks going like that. It looks awful. So I can't do italics. But if I hadn't practiced, I'd have been wasting the plastic stuff. But I'm getting to the point where some of those cartridges are running out now, or very close to. And I won't be doing that many more labels, I wouldn't have thought. You know, I've labelled almost everything in here. There's not much that hasn't been done. Anyway, we shall see. I think what I might do is, there are some cartridges that will probably never run out, because I used a colour for a certain type of orchid. I haven't got many, and I might not get any more. So that cartridge will carry on lasting. Whereas some, I used yellow for the Oncidium types. So, you know, that went down pretty quick. And blue for the cooler growers, you know. So again, you know, used a fair bit there as well. So I might have to just buy single cartridges for the ones that have run out. Although it's a bit more expensive that way. To buy a whole set again when some of them are not even half used yet, it'd be a bit silly, wouldn't it? Anyway, so that was the weekend that was, and as I say, I've got to find some room for these new plants now. Luckily none of them are highlight orchids, absolutely none of them. So we'll find some space for them. 2 cotyledons in there, so they, you know, they'll go in the bright but not directly under the lights sort of light. That's where I'm keeping the cotyledons at the moment, and they'll be okay. The Oncidium with the spikes are already formed. That doesn't need bright light to get it to bloom. It's already got the spikes, so that can just find a space somewhere else. And then the other one, this one, Prosthetia technically is in the Cattleya Alliance, but Prosthetias don't need the sort of bright light that Cattleyas do. It's like the next level down. So I'll find somewhere for that. I mean, I do have another Prosthetia somewhere lying around, Radiata. So we can perhaps put those two together because they're a pair now. And yeah. Things left. I have all the clips from yesterday, which is the 3 Orchid Society displays, which I filmed how I would normally film an Orchid Society display. Slowly and carefully past the blooms, you know, getting in a bit closer if they were smaller. So those are good clips. I will put that. I don't do names, you know, to try and get the camera to sort of read sideways on what the label says. Half of them are back to front and everything. So it's just pretty blooms and some music. But those clips will make some very interesting viewing, because there are a couple of people at the Denton Orchid Society that are Cattleya specialists. So I was just thinking, at our show on Saturday, there were probably 2, maybe 3 Cattleyas in the room. Lawrence had none for sale, Burnham's had none for sale, and there might have been a couple in the, you know, put together display of members' plants. There's hardly a Cattleya in sight. Whereas the orchid societies that put the displays on at Burnham's had some Cattleya specialists, so you can have a nice treat of having some big, blousy, noisy Cattleyas. They are stunning, and some good assorted stuff within it. And just to tag on the end, I've got a new bloom to show you. So actually, I'll take the camera. Oh, you're going to get seasick. I'll take the camera off because I need to go closer to it so you can have a good look. Very pretty new bloom. Came out over the weekend, that's why you haven't seen it before. Right. And it's a colour changer. This was the first one to open, so it's been open a while. This one is opening now. The difference in the colour on the lip. And that's just in a couple of days. So bright and fresh, lemony yellow. A few days later, pale pink. But anyway, an odont type. I believe this was once called Wilsonara, but it's now called that. Zelenkosidium, and it's calico gem. And it's one of a set of 3 that are sort of, they seem to bloom roughly at the same time. But yeah, it's not a brilliant spike. It's got a branch with a couple of buds on, and yeah, it's got another one to open. But yeah, nice odont style bloom. The patterning, coloration. You know, when I go to Mather's, everywhere you look is this type of thing. Only in their case probably twice as big. Their breeding program is geared up to taking the best and making them better. Bigger, longer lasting, brighter. That's their idea. So anyway, whoever did this cross, however long ago, it's a nice one. I like it a lot. So see you next time, and thanks for dropping by, and the usual thanks to everybody supporting the channel in every which way that you can and do. Yeah, thanks a bunch for sticking with it. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.